Horridon Heroic is one of 3 bosses often chosen as the follow-up heroic to Jinrock, and is a significant step up in difficulty over the first heroic encounter of this tier. Expect to test your raid's capability to stay focused and position correctly for 12 long minutes on this hard-hitting encounter. We use 2 tanks, 2 healers and 6 DPS. This guide assumes you are familiar with the mechanics of normal mode, which can be found on our website, along with the text guide at availedguild.com. Horridon has a whopping 654 million HP on Heroic, and just like normal mode, you'll have to spend the first 8 minutes of the encounter dealing with waves upon waves of adds before even facing off against him. Each of these gates remains relatively unchanged, but the massive damage increase they've received will require you to be significantly more careful in your placement. Just as importantly, letting any avoidable mechanic hit you will almost certainly result in a death, and you'll want your battle res for the end of the encounter. The only new mechanic that you'll have to deal with on Heroic is Dire Call. Every minute after the start of the encounter, Horridon will cast this ability and deal massive damage to the raid. This will cause all adds alive to gain a 50% haste buff and spawn a Direhorn Spirit. This extremely annoying dinosaur will follow players around for the rest of the fight. Each time you hit it, it gets knocked back a bit, like the meteors from Ragnaros. You cannot hit it again while in the air, so be sure not to waste your time chain casting on it with fast abilities. If it ever reaches you, it will begin meleeing for 400k damage. Only the player the Direhorn Spirit is targeting can see or interact with it at all. On the first gate, prepare to have to deal with incredible damage from the Sunfires, which will need to be dispelled quickly. 2 stacks on a player is almost certain death. Mass Dispel remains incredibly strong for this, and given the absurd strength of Disc Priests throughout the entire encounter, we strongly suggest bringing one, even if it's a Shadow Priest that respects for this fight. Sand traps now kill you in a matter of seconds, so be sure to pay attention to the graphic on the ground indicating where they will appear. Focus down the Waste Walkers as your #1 priority to avoid this frustrating mechanic. Dinomancers are more important, but this is only true up to 50% health, when they stop healing and drop the orb. At this point, resume focusing on the Waste Walkers while cleaving everything else down. Speaking of the Dinomancer heal, this has been buffed significantly for Heroic, and heals Horridon for 1% each second. Interrupting this immediately will be helpful in shortening the last phase. We positioned Horridon parallel to the gate for these first waves of trolls. After finishing up the last few trolls, burn Horridon as the tank kites him over to the second gate, and positions him with his tail facing a bit towards the gate. This will give you plenty of room to manoeuvre and avoid the poison, as well as position charge so that Horridon does not move at all. The Venom Priests remain the #1 priority here on Heroic, and interrupts are even more important now. The Poison Bolt Volley combined with the Broodlord's Dot will deal incredible damage, and avoiding getting even just a few stacks will be essential for healers' mana and sanity. If you kill a Venom Priest fast enough, no Venomous Effusion will appear. When the set of 2 comes, try to focus one down rapidly so that you only have to deal with 1 effusion. Always prioritise burning effusions when they are up. They should die before they even get a cast off if you are quick about it. Any group that has killed this boss on normal a few times should be able to get these first gates relatively easy. The third gate, on the other hand, will provide an incredible challenge. The Frozen Warlords melee very hard, and with the Mortal Strike healing reduction, keeping the Adtake alive will prove a real challenge. We resolve this by using Army of the Dead once their set of 2 Warlords spawned. If this is not an option for you, chain CDs and be sure not to let the disease stack too high on your ad tank. Ranged DPS and healers are the last priority for dispels here. Positioning on this gate is extremely important. Your range should all be relatively clumped up, so that the warriors and champions all run in the same path. This allows for effective use of slows, knockbacks and AoEs, although killing the Frozen Warlords is much more important than burning down the champions and warriors, since they are not easily controlled and spawn the extremely dangerous Frozen Orbs. Be sure to keep an eye on your Dire Call timer during this part of the encounter as well. Effective use of raid CDs will be essential. Make absolutely sure all Frozen Warlords are dead before you kite all the way to the next gate while avoiding Frozen Orbs. You do not want any near the 4th gate because Flamecasters will need to be interrupted to be moved, and having orbs near them will make this gate significantly harder than it already is. The real danger of the 4th gate is not the Flamecasters, however. The Warbears now hit even harder than the Frozen Warlords, and adds an added bonus to an incredibly painful cleave. Focus these down while not ignoring the Flamecasters, and then deal with the equally annoying Beast Shamans. Their totems now deal 400,000 damage a tick, and their chain lightning is significantly more dangerous as well. The curse that goes out also hits incredibly hard now. Recall from normal mode that this curse only has a chance to deal damage when you use an ability. Be careful not to kill yourself when low on HP by trying to burn down the adds. This gate is much more about control than it is damage. Avoid dropping totems anywhere near the centre, ignore the protectors and keep your interrupts on CD to save your healers a lot of headaches. At this point in the encounter, your healers will begin receiving a Direhorn Spirit as well. We strongly suggest having a macro set up to deal with this, because the last phase of this encounter will require incredible damage and healing output to beat, and you don't want to be wasting any time with targeting. This is the macro we use. It is also linked in the description below. Note that the Direhorn Spirit gets knocked back relative to its target's position, regardless of where it got hit from. Since only you can see your own spirit, this normally would not matter. Pet classes, however, will find this particularly helpful, because it means that even though your pet attacks from behind, the spirit will still be pushed away from you. War God Jalek is unchanged on Heroic, beyond dealing even more damage. His real danger is in his AoE pulse being timed with Horridon's dire call. You will need to have some form of a cooldown up to survive this massive hit. After Jalek goes down, prepare for a significantly more challenging finale than what normal mode provided. Horridon will now be hitting your tank for 300,000 damage every second. Combined with a triple puncture, this means your tank can receive well over 1 million damage in less than 2 seconds. Paladins are a big help with this, because Fan of Protection removes the triple puncture debuff. Any tank who has active mitigation that scales with Vengeance should be prioritised for tanking Horridon and receiving bops. Since we had no paladins or scaling mitigation tanks, we chained our cooldowns, used a battle res when one tank died, and ended the fight by kiting and praying. Overall, this fight has received a massive buff for Heroic mode that makes Jinrock look like a complete joke. While other Heroics in the instance are easier, we'd still suggest doing him second for a number of reasons. It means you will have something to work on after him if you kill him early in the week. He is worth more points and thus higher rankings on WoW progress, since he is in order, and he drops an amazing healer trinket, which is clearly reason enough to focus on him. Good luck and check out availguild.com for more guides and info about the guild.